Hello and welcome to a new episode on Sadhana World Foundation. Today morning, some of us were sitting together and talking about the big things which are happening around us. G20 event is happening, and we were talking about what are the issues that our world leaders are debating. One of those issues was about poverty. A thought crossed my mind. In our Hindu mythology, there is an interesting story about someone very poor and his behaviors and how this poor person leads his life and how the king of that time deals with the emotions, the feelings, and the situation of this poor person. Let me describe the story. Many of you would have heard of this already. Sudama was a great friend of Lord Krishna. The both are supposed to have studied together in the famous Sandipani sages ashram in the modern day Ujjain. They all grew together in the teacher's place, and of course Krishna was from the royal family Yaduvansh, and Sudama was from a poor Brahmin family. Naturally, they all graduated out of the school and they charted their own paths. Sri Krishna became, of course, the king of Dwarka, and Sudama continued to remain as a poor Brahmin priest. He charted his own life. He lived a life of abject poverty. His wife used to always tell him that he knew Krishna, the king of Dwarka. He should go to the king and ask for help. But Sudama, being a great student and a great friend of Sri Krishna, never felt like asking for help, that too financial help, from his friend. He believed that he must find his own way and lead his own life, the way and the means that are available to him. Of course, Sudama and his wife and the children lived a life of poverty for sure, bereft of many luxuries and comforts, what that time believed to be luxurious and comfortable. However, they never had a moment of sorrow or any disappointment or any grievance against anyone. However, Sudama's wife kept nudging him to meet his friend and ask for some help so that they can lead a little better life. Some days they used to go hungry. Of course, it's difficult to lead such a life. And Sudama one day finally wilted under pressure and went to meet Lord Krishna. He had nothing to take with him as a gift to meet his friend after so many years. So Sudama's wife had given him just a few fistful of rice, that too broken rice. Not you and me will normally be eating every day. But that's all he had, and he carried that to Lord Krishna's place. And of course, reached Dwarka and was amazed to see the opulence of the city and the great palace and the stories that he had believed, he had heard from others about Sri Krishna the king. That all those stories were real. He reached the king's palace. Sri Krishna welcomed him, embraced him with great joy and pleasure. Sri Krishna and his queen all welcomed him, put him as the royal king, a royal guest, put him on the throne, and like a servant would those days wash the feet of the guest, Sri Krishna himself did that for Sudama. Sudama was overwhelmed with the treatment that he received. He lived there, and both the friends very happily recounted, reminisced the days of their boyhood, their childhood in Sandipani's ashram, and the way that they lived together. Sri Krishna teased him tease Sudama that what gift that he was carrying for him. After all, they were meeting after so many years, and Sudama was hesitant to say that he had nothing and he was leading the life of a poor person. But Sudama was hesitating, but Krishna could figure this out and took a few of those broken rice that Sudama was having with him. Though Krishna's queen was not very approving of this behavior of Krishna, but Krishna did it. And Sudama lived there for some time, had a time of bliss. He always regarded Krishna as his dear friend. The spirit, the soul of Krishna was so inspiring for him, for reasons known to him, that he just had a great time of his life. He forgot that he was someone who was living a life of great poverty. He went through almost like a transformation of his mind. He was pure in his thoughts all the time. He never asked for any help. The time next day morning came and he left the palace. He was still in a condition of bliss, happiness, great happiness. And he comes back home and sees that his hut is transformed to a palace. He is being welcomed by musicians. He is being welcomed by in great luxury. He is being welcomed to his own house. He could not believe his own eyes. Of course, this is a mythological story. This is a folk tale. Some of us consider this as history. It doesn't matter. But the story tells us that poverty doesn't mean that economical poverty only, financial poverty only. Poverty could mean that one is poor, one is bereft of ideas, bereft of spirituality, bereft of a purpose in one's life. One doesn't know what's the meaning of this existence in this world. That's a great form of poverty as well. In our mythology, there are several examples of rich kings and rich people who have committed heinous crimes and worst kind of mistakes and the worst kind of sins that one can think of. They were not poor financially, economically. However, they were poor spiritually. They were poor in their thinking. They didn't have the right ideas, the right thoughts in their mind, the right beliefs in their mind. Look at Sudama. This story teaches us that financial poverty, economic poverty should not mean that you are poor spiritually. All the time in his mind, he was pure in his thinking. He was not jealous of his friend. He was not trying to be hypocrite. He was not trying to compare himself with his friend's wealth, power. He was not worried about any of those things. He was concerned about who he was. He knew his soul. That soul had some aim, some purpose, which he was very clear about. The story teaches us that if you stay the right course of purity of mind, then wealth, happiness, and all those physical things that many of us chase possibly come our way sometime. After all, it's about the bliss, the happiness, the joy that we all seek in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear children, who are listening to this story, beautiful story of the friendship of Sudama and Krishna, the illustration of poverty here is so holistic, so wonderful. I hope you had a great time thinking about this and spreading these words amongst many other people. Look forward to our future stories. Thank you very much.